it's Thomas here, and today we're going to be checking out the CarbonDoser electronic CO2 regulator. I'm going to talk about how this American-made piece of CO2 technology makes our traditional regulators and their peripherals obsolete. We've talked about calcium reactors here before and how to set them up the easy way so that reefers like myself, who've always found them to be overly complicated, could finally wrap our heads around how they operate so we could benefit from their super stable and hands-free dosing of calcium alkalinity, magnesium, and other elements. One specific component that reefers and planted aquarists alike have had to learn to use is a CO2 regulator. The thing is, traditionally, they're pretty finicky to dial in just right. They also require a number of extra components or peripherals in order for them to work properly on our systems, and ultimately, they can be a bit of a pain in the butt, which can make the whole experience of setting up a calcium reactor more of a struggle than it actually needs to be. The CarbonDoser electronic CO2 regulator takes it to a whole other level, providing everything you need in a single, ultra-precise, very easy to use regulator with a much wider range of control than a traditional CO2 regulator. No more bubble counter, no more external solenoid or finicky needle valve to worry about. With the CarbonDoser hooked up to your CO2 bottle, you can adjust the bubble size using the main valve and then the bubble frequency with the knob on the black box, then plug it into your pH or aquarium controller and you are all set. I'll dive into its pretty impressive specs in just a moment, but first let's get it out of this cardboard contraption called a box. In the box you'll find the CarbonDoser electronic CO2 regulator, the specialized check valve, the CO2 rated 1/4 inch tubing, as well as the power supply and the instructions. The CarbonDoser fits standard CO2 bottle threading, so you can hook it up to a wide array of bottle sizes, whether you want a smaller 5-pound bottle that fits inside of a stand or a monster 20-pound bottle that will last for months on end. It is highly adjustable, and rather than making adjustments in bubbles per second, the CarbonDoser uses a more flexible and accurate seconds per bubble measurement, which provides a wider range of control from around 5 bubbles per second down to a very slow 10 seconds per bubble. This very wide range makes getting the right amount of CO2 flowing into the reactor a breeze. The regulator also has 2 gauges on it, one to read bottle pressure, which will tell you when your bottle is nearing empty and it's ready to be swapped out, and another to read the pressure that you're sending to your reactor, which can help you keep track of the bubble size that you set on the regulator. Like I was mentioning earlier, the CarbonDoser replaces not only your traditional CO2 regulator, but also the other components or peripherals you would usually need to set up a CO2 regulator properly for our calcium reactors, which includes things like an electric solenoid valve, a needle valve, and a bubble counter. All of those components are replaced by the black box, which houses a super precise electronic valve that opens and closes in 1/4000th of a second. The knob on the front of the black box is your much more precise version of a needle valve, and the red LED indicator below it will blink every time a bubble or portion of CO2 is released, replacing the need for a bubble counter. And you can absolutely plug the power supply into your pH controller or aquarium controller to shut off the flow of CO2 just like you normally would with a standard electric solenoid. It is always super important to read the instructions when you're setting up a CO2 regulator, and the CarbonDoser is no different, especially if you are newer to calcium reactors. Last thing you want to do is make a mistake with highly pressurized CO2. For example, you'll need to make sure the valve is completely closed before installing it on your CO2 bottle and opening that CO2 bottle's valve to initiate the flow of CO2 to the regulator. It isn't at all complicated and is very easy to do, but just like build-it-yourself furniture, if you don't follow the instructions, you might not get the result you were looking for, or worse, could damage your brand new multi-tier bookshelf. I mean, CO2 regulator. Because the furniture example is totally made up and not at all based in reality. That never happened. What? If you've been looking for the perfect regulator for setting up a calcium reactor on easy mode, and the CarbonDoser matches your reefing mantra, you can pick one up for your awesome reef by clicking right here.